Hello, hello, hello. Welcome. For those of you who are watching me for the very first time, my name is James Ambroise, and on this channel we'll cover how to pay off debt faster than any other debt repayment method out there. We'll cover basic bookkeeping and accounting for someone who just started out a small business. We'll cover basic personal income tax to include a Schedule C, Schedule E, depreciation. I am also the author, creator of Ambroise Method 1.0 and Ambroise Method 2.0. Ambroise Method is a revolutionary debt repayment method that offers greater results in terms of reducing interest cost compared to debt snowball, debt avalanche, velocity banking. Real quick about my credentials. I have been or am a bookkeeper and accountant, QuickBooks Pro advisor, senior tax advisor, residential real estate investor, residential property manager, financial coach. And as always, before we get started, what's on the board, please allow me to shout out the name Jesus, my Lord, my God, my Creator. Thank you. All right, America, on the board we have this hypothetical scenario of somebody who filled out one of my Microsoft Excel worksheets, and the person provided me with these figures for debt. This person has a USA credit card, PenFed ELOC, credit limit 12,000, APR 24%, balance owed 8,000, monthly payments charged 240, availability. America, remember from prior lesson that the availability is the relationship between the credit limit and the balance owed. That relationship calls for a subtraction operation. 12,000 minus 8,000. That's how we arrive at 4,000. Okay? Credit utilization. Credit utilization is the relationship between the balance owed and the credit limit. That relationship calls for a division operation. 8,000 divided by 12,000. That's how we arrive at 66.67%. Okay? Payment rate charge. Payment rate charge is the relationship between the monthly payments charged and the balance owed. That relationship calls for a division operation. $240 divided by 8,000. That's how we arrive at 3%. Okay? Now, on a USA credit card, USA, the statement date for USA is on the 3rd of current month. Okay? For the PenFed ELOC, it is a 10-20 ELOC, so 10-year draw, 20 years repayment. Right now we're in year 3 of 30, and the statement date on the PenFed ELOC was the 26th of the prior month. So one is in the current month, one was in the prior month. Okay? All right. We're doing a scenario for a single dad. His income is on a bi-weekly pay period. He got paid on the 5th, and he'll get paid. The next paycheck will come 14 days later on the 19th. The total for the two paycheck after tax is $3,081. His debt, $28,000. The debt, that's when you add all these balances that we have on the board. 8,000 plus 20,000. That's how we arrive at 28,000. Okay? His expenses, $2,693. The expense, that's when you add all these amount that we have on the board. Okay, every single one of them. Now, out of these expenses, America, $1,803 could go on a credit card. These are the expenses that could go on a credit card. Electricity could go on a credit card. Water could go on a credit card. YouTube TV could go on a credit card. Netflix could go on a credit card. T-Mobile could go on a credit card. Property tax could go on a credit card. Insurances, that is the property insurance and the car insurance. Those two insurances combined, the total is $100, could go on a credit card. Groceries could go on a credit card. Fuel, gas for his vehicle could go on a credit card. Dining out, restaurant could go on a credit card. When you add them up, the total, $1,803. Okay? Cash flow is cash flow. Remember, America, from prior lesson, that cash flow is the relationship between the income and the expense. That relationship calls for a subtraction operation, $3,081 minus $2,693. That's how we arrive at $388 in cash flow. Okay? Today we're doing case study number 6. And today's date is July 29, 2024. Okay? Alright, America, I'll give you about 5-10 seconds to take a look at what's on the board, and then we're going to continue with the exercise. Alright, America. From past lesson, I told you guys that sometimes you're doing transaction inside the account, and even though you're doing transaction inside the account, the monthly payment charge will still stay the same. Okay? It all depends on when exactly you're performing those transactions. Okay? Whether it was before the statement date or after the statement date. Okay? So I mentioned it to you guys from prior lesson. Now we're gonna put it into practice. Okay? And again, for the USAA, the statement date is on the 3rd of the month. Okay? So for USAA, the statement date or the statement closing date, so statement date or statement closing date for USA it was the 3rd of the month. So again, we're in July. Let's assume this one was July 3. Okay? And for PenFed, the statement date was the 26th of the prior month. So we're in July. The month prior was June. So that was June 26th. For PenFed. Okay? Alright. Now, let's assume whatever transaction we're doing this transaction at the top of the month. Let's assume we're doing this transaction after the statement date. So July 3rd, let's say we're doing the transaction on July 4th. Okay? So the transaction July 4. Okay? Alright. Now, remember, America, that Ambroise Method calls for a series of steps. And those steps have to be taken at least once a month. And the steps, for those of you who missed that lesson, segregate, compare, transfer, repeat. There might be some condition, exception, restriction to the strategy, and then cash flow, large payment, and then we have to insert the what, W-H-T. W, which account or accounts to use. H, how much of a payment to send to these accounts. And T, to pay down or off which debt. Okay? And again, the steps, segregate, compare, transfer, repeat. Cash flow, large payment, then we have to insert the what. Okay? These are the steps, America, for Ambroise Method, and the steps have to be taken at least once a month. Alright, America, now let's segregate. The way we segregate, America, we segregate by account types. That's looking at the list of debt, and I prefer my revolving credit account on top and my installment credit account at the bottom. Okay? USA, that's a credit card, so that's revolving credit account. PenFed ELOC is a revolving credit account when the PenFed is still in a draw period. Right now we're on year 3 of 30, so we're still inside 10 years, so the PenFed ELOC, for our purpose, only America, will be considered a revolving credit account. So as far as segregation, we have, again, USA revolving credit account, PenFed ELOC, that is in a draw period, revolving credit account. So we have 2 revolving credit accounts. We do not have any installment credit account, okay? So as far as segregation, the list is perfect. We only have one kind, revolving credit account, okay? If we had installment, the installment will be at the bottom. But in this case, we only have 2 revolving, okay? So segregation is done for us, so we are good as far as segregation. Next, America, we compare. And the way we compare by APR between account types. Well, we only have one account type, revolving credit account. And the way I like to compare America, I prefer the higher APR on top and the lower APR at the bottom. So 24 is higher or bigger than 9, so 24 is listed first, okay? And to save time, I've already rearranged the list, okay? And when we compare in America, we try to identify the enemy. We try to identify the troublemaker. And the account with the higher APR is generally the enemy. The account with higher APR is generally the troublemaker. Okay. Next, America, we transfer. The way we transfer America, we always try to relocate balances. There goes the balance. From a debt that has a higher APR. The debt that has a higher APR, that's USA. We're going to try to relocate some of these balances into a debt that has a lower APR. The debt that has a lower APR is PenFed ELOC. So we're going to try to relocate some of that 8,000 and we're going to try to dump it onto the PenFed ELOC 20,000. Okay? That's how we transfer from higher APR, from absolute higher APR to absolute lowest APR for maximum interest savings. Okay? All right, so we're going to transfer, but now by how much? America, on our method, we are extremely aggressive. Okay? We go close to 100% of the credit limit. But in this particular example, we're going to go 98.5%. Okay? 98.5%. Okay? All right, so let's figure out how much we're going to have available for a transfer. So in the PenFed ELOC, remember, we want to go as high as 98.5%, so it's going to be of the credit limit. The credit limit is 25,000, so 25,000 times 98.5%. Okay? And folks, remember, if you don't quite know what you're doing, do not go as high as 98.5% on the credit limit. Stay in the low 80s, low 90s. Don't go as high as 98.5% if you do not know what you're doing. Okay? So 25,000 times 98.5% is 24,625. But single dad already owe on the PenFed ELOC 20,000 minus 20,000. So now we have $4,625 available for a transfer. Okay? All right. So out of the 8,000, remember we're doing transfer, so we're going to try to relocate some of that 8,000. We're going to dump it into the PenFed. Okay, so 8,000 going to get reduced by 4,625, and 20,000 going to get increased by 4,625. All right. So now, America, let's run Ambroise Method. Okay. So we have USAA for the transfer. The credit limit, 12,000. APR, 24% for USAA. Balance owed. Now remember, the balance is going to get decreased because we're going to dump some of that balance onto the PenFed. So 8,000 going to get decreased by 4,625. So that's 8,000 minus 4,625, 4,625. The new balance for USAA will be 3,375. Okay. The monthly payments charged. Now remember, we established that the statement closing date was on the 3rd, and we're doing this transaction on the 4th, which is after the closing date. Okay. And for USAA, the due date is the 28th. So we have due date (28) for USAA. And for PenFed, the due date is 20th, 20. Okay? And again, we're doing these transactions on July 4th, which is one day after the statement closing date. Okay? Okay. And for PenFed, we're doing a transaction on July 4th, which is, let's say, June has 30 days. January, February. Yeah, so June has 30 days. Okay? So that's 4 days. And then July 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 plus 4. This one we're doing the transaction 8 days after the closing date. So this one for PenFed, it's for USA, it's 1 day after. And for PenFed, 26 plus 4, that's 30 plus 4, so that's 8 days after. Okay? America, when you're doing a transaction after the statement closing date, so we're doing a transaction on July 4th. Okay? Doing transaction on July 4th. So this one is 1 day later. This one is 8 days later. Okay? Whenever you're doing a transaction, America, after the statement due date, but after the statement closing date, but before the due date. So somewhere between the statement closing date and the due date. Okay? Even though you're doing transaction inside these accounts, the monthly payments charge will still stay the same. So even though USAA went from 8,000 to 3,375, the monthly payments charge will still stay $240. Okay? Why? Again, we're doing a transaction after the statement closing date, but before the due date. July 4th is between the statement closing date and the due date. July 4th is between July 3 and July 28. Okay? So that is why the monthly payments charge still the same. Just like I mentioned you guys from past lesson, but now we're going to put this thing into practice, okay? The availability is credit limit minus balance owed, so 12,000 minus 3,375. So now availability now is 8,625. Okay? Credit utilization, balance owed divided by credit limit, 3375, divided by 12,000. So now we are at 13%. 2812, but we're rounding up, 2813. Okay? And the payment rate charge will be monthly payments charge 240 divided by balance owed 3375. Okay? So we are at 7.11%. Okay? All right. So now let's move down to the PenFed ELOC. Credit limit, 25,000. APR, 9% on the PenFed ELOC. Balance owed, remember, we're going to relocate or dump 4,625 from the USAA and dump it into the PenFed ELOC. So PenFed ELOC going to get increased by 4,625. So it's 20,000 plus 4,625. So the new balance now on the PenFed ELOC will be 24,625. Okay, which is 98% of the PenFed ELOC, 98% of the credit limit, 24,625, 24,625. Okay. And the monthly payment charge, again, America, we're doing the transactions on July 4th, which is after the statement closing date, but before the due date. So between the statement closing date, okay, and the statement due date. All right? So whenever you're doing the transaction, America, again, after the statement closing date, but before the due date, even though the balance are going up and down, the monthly payment charge will still stay the same. So for that reason, the monthly payment charge on PenFed ELOC will be $150, because they already told you on July 26th, after July 26th, that it was going to be $150. And then you start doing the transaction after July 26th, it's still going to stay $150. Okay? All right. The availability is credit limit minus balance owed. So 25,000 minus 24,625. Availability is 375. And the credit utilization is balance owed divided by credit limit, so 24,625. We know it's going to be 98.5%, but let's run it just for good measure, divided by 25,000. Sure enough, 98.50%, like we knew it was. Okay? And the payment rate charge is monthly payment charge divided by balance owed. So 150 divided by 24,625. So we are 0.61%. Okay. All right, America. To recap, be mindful of when you're doing transaction inside these accounts. Okay. For USA, the statement closing date is July 3rd. If I was doing this transaction on July 1 or July 2, the monthly payment charge would change. Okay. All right, America. I'll give you about 5-10 seconds to take a look at what's on the board, and then we're going to continue with the exercise. All right, America. Going back to our steps, segregate, compare, transfer. We've executed one transfer. Now we're going to try to repeat the transfer. Now is there opportunity for us to repeat the transfer? Okay. We only have two accounts. PenFed ELOC is already at 98.5%. Availability is only 375, close to match saturation point, so we cannot do any more transfer. Okay. So now, America, we're gonna try to figure out whether we're gonna use cash flow or a large payment. Okay. So during this period, remember sometimes in the middle of paying off debt, you might come across a big bonus check. Sometimes in the middle of paying off debt, you might come across a big tax refund. Sometimes in the middle of paying off debt, you might come across some additional funds or money, okay, that would constitute or represent a large payment. But single dad during this period did not receive any additional funds or money that would consider a large payment. So in this case, we're going to be dealing with cash flow. Okay? All right, America. So now let's figure out how much our new cash flow is. Okay? And the way we determine our cash flow, we take a look at the monthly payments charge, the original monthly payments charge, minus the new monthly payments charge to see if our cash flow has increased or decreased. Okay. The monthly payments charge for the USA, $240, still stays $240 because again we're doing this transaction after the statement closing date. The monthly payments charge for PenFed ELOC, $150, still stay $150. So our monthly payments charge for these two accounts have not increased or decreased. Okay, so it is zero, no increase, no decrease. The original monthly cash flow was $388. So $388 plus zero, we're still at $388. So our old cash flow was $388. Our new cash flow is also $388. Okay. Because again, we have no increase, no decrease. Okay, 388. So cash flow, no increase or decrease. So our new cash flow is same thing, 388. Okay. All right, going back to the steps again. Now we've determined our cash flow. So now we're going to try to answer the rest of the question, the what? WHT. W, which account or accounts to use. H, how much of a payment to send to this account. And T, to pay down or off which debt. Okay? America, on our method, Ambroise method, we have two different types of users. Put that a little higher. Ambroise method. Okay. We have what we call a normal user. And we have what we call an advanced user. Okay. America, remember when you're paying off debt, you're going to come across three main elements, three main assignments, three main jobs. And these elements, these assignments, these jobs are transfer, alternative account, and cash flow. Okay. That's our TAC. Okay. T for transfer. A for alternative account. And C for cash flow. Okay. And again, we have two different types of users for Ambroise Method. Okay. For a normal user takes advantage of transfer, takes advantage of cash flow. A normal user does not take advantage of the alternative account. Why? Because they don't quite understand it yet. Okay? And an advanced user takes advantage of every single thing that we have on the board. An advanced user takes advantage of transfer, takes advantage of the alternative account, takes advantage of cash flow. Okay? For a normal user, if you fall under a normal user category, America, obviously you're going to take advantage of transfer, you're going to take advantage of cash flow. Okay? So earlier we've done transfer. So for a normal user, after you've done all these transfers, in our example it was only one transfer, then you're going to try to take advantage of cash flow. Okay? So for a normal user, after you've done these transfers, okay, you cannot do any more transfers. So as the paychecks start coming in, now you're going to use the funds that will be in your checking account to pay off debt. So normal user will use checking account. Okay? So for a normal user, every account is going to receive just bare minimum payment after the transfer. And the account that has the higher APR, that's where cash flow is going to go. Okay? For a normal user. So cash flow, which is 388, will go to the higher APR. The higher APR is USAA for a normal user. First you do transfer. Normal user don't do alternative account, then you're going to try to take advantage of cash flow. So as the income start coming in, okay, you're going to deposit all that income in your checking account. Then you're going to use your checking account to pay off debt. Okay? Every account, every bill is going to receive whatever their minimum payments are. Okay? And whatever excess payment that you have remaining, that excess payment, in this case we've already determined it's 388. That excess payment, 388, will go to the account with the higher APR. So the excess payment will go to USA for a normal user. Okay? But now we're doing a scenario for an advanced user. For an advanced user, America, we always try to identify three main accounts. Okay? The first account we're trying to identify for an advanced user is the account for greater results. Next, we're trying to identify the account for greater liquidity. And the third and final account we normally look for an advanced user is the alternative account. For movements of income and movements of expenses. Okay? These are the three main accounts we all normally look for an advanced user. Okay. Alright, so now let's figure out our account. The account for greater results, America, is generally the account with the higher APR. We have USAA, 24%. We have PenFed ELOC, 9%. So the account for greater results will be USAA. Remember, USAA has the higher APR. Okay? Next, the account for greater liquidity. Well, between these two accounts, we have USAA. The bills that could go on the USAA were $1,803 because USAA is a credit card. Okay? And we have PenFed ELOC. So between USAA credit card and PenFed ELOC, between those two, the account that offer greater liquidity, okay, is the PenFed ELOC. So USAA is very liquid, but not as liquid as the PenFed ELOC. So PenFed ELOCs offer greater liquidity. USAA was very liquid up to 1,803 because 1,803 could go on a credit card, okay? But not everything else could go on a credit card, okay? All right, and the third and final account is the alternative account for movements of income and movements of expenses, okay? And that alternative account is generally the account with the higher APR. And again, USAA has the higher APR. And again, for an advanced user, these are our three accounts. USAA for greater results in terms of reducing interest cost. And again, when we send payment to the higher APR, we achieve greater results. Okay? PenFed ELOC for greater liquidity. And USAA as the alternative account for movement of income and movement of expenses. Okay? We have our three accounts again. America, when we look at the list for, after we identified our three accounts for an advanced user, when we look at the list, we saw USAA at two separate places. USAA for greater results and USAA for alternative account for movement of income and movement of expenses. So we have what we call redundancy. We have USAA at two different places. Okay? So for that reason, we're not going to use USAA for alternative account for movement of income and movement of expenses. And again, folks, we generally look for these three accounts. The only time we don't use one is when we have redundancy. So for that reason, we're going to take USAA off the board. We already have USAA. All right, so going back to our steps again, which accounts or accounts to use? We know we're going to use USAA for greater results. And we're going to use PenFed ELOC for greater liquidity. Okay? All right, so now we've determined which account to use. Next, America, as part of our steps, is to figure out how much of a payment to send to these accounts. Okay. For USAA, we have our regular payment. And the regular payment for USAA is $240. And for PenFed, we have $150. Okay. Next, we have bills that could go on a credit card. Okay. For bills that could go on a credit card, we say that $1,803 could go on a credit card. These are all the bills that could go on a credit card. The total, when you add them up again, 1,803. And USA is a credit card. And USA has the higher APR. Okay. Next, are the remainder bills that could not go on a credit card. Remember, USA was limited. Only 1,803 could go on a credit card. So whatever remainder that could not go on a credit card, the account that offer greater liquidity will take care of those. Okay. So we have other bills, other remainder bills. Okay. Let's leave that alone for now. Then we have cash flow. Okay. For cash flow, we say our cash flow was, the original cash flow was 388. The new cash flow is still 388. Why? Again, the multi-payment charge hasn't changed. 241.50, 241.50. Okay. Remember, America, when you're paying off debt, cash flow is better served in the account that has the higher APR. Okay. Remember from case study number 5, the excess payment needs to go to the higher APR. So cash flow 388 will go to USA. USA has the higher APR, 24%. And we might have absorption or absorption opportunity. All right. Let's leave absorption alone for now. Let's go back to other remainder bills that could not go on a credit card. Remember, America, the total paycheck for a single dad will be $3,081. So the remainder bills that could not go on a credit card will be $3,081 minus all these amounts. So we have 3,081 minus 240 minus 1,803 minus 388 minus 150. Remainder bills that could not go on a credit card, again, the account that offer greater liquidity will take care of that. So we have 500 for remainder bills. Okay, so 500 will go to the account with greater liquidity. Okay, and that 500 represents the car payment, $500, because you cannot, this particular servicer want cash or check for the car payment. Cash or check. Okay. Single dad could not pay the car payment with a credit card. Okay. Because the servicer would cash or check. Alright. So the account that offer greater liquidity will take care of the car payment. So that is why PenFed will take care of the car payment. $500. Okay. Alright. America, these are hard numbers. But when we looked at what we have on the board, we have PenFed ELOC, the regular payment, $150. Then we have all the remainder bills that could not go on a credit card, $500, which is the payment, which is the car payment. So we have two payments, America, going to a lower APR account. Remember, PenFed ELOC, 9%. 9% is lower than 24%. We do not, America, want to send too much payment to an account at 9%. That is at 9% when we have a 24% account on the board. So for that reason, the account that offer greater results, which is USA, will absorb one of these two amounts. But which one would he absorb? And again, we have 150, the regular payment for PenFed ELOC. Then we have 500, or the remainder bills that could not go on a credit card, which is the car payment. Okay. America, if we send 500 to the PenFed ELOC, that $500 is big enough to satisfy the monthly payment charge on the PenFed ELOC 150, because 500 is larger or bigger than 150. Okay? So we would not have the need to send an additional 150 again to a lower APR account. So for that reason, USA will absorb the lower of the two payments, 150. Okay. All right. Okay. So now PenFed ELOC will only keep 500 because that 150 got stolen from them. Okay? Got absorbed from them. So we take away that 150 from PenFed ELOC. We've stolen that 150 from PenFed ELOC. Okay? We remove that 150 from PenFed ELOC. Okay? So now let's figure out our total. Okay? The total for USA now is 240 plus 1803 plus 388 plus 150. The total for PenFed ELOC now will be 2,581. Okay? And PenFed will only keep 500. Alright? And when you add these two up, you should arrive at the total income, 3081. Okay? So now how much USA will keep 2,581? And PenFed ELOC will keep only 500 bucks. Okay? So the last and final questions that we have to answer is the T, to pay down or off which debt. Okay? That will be the workflow. Okay? All right, America. Remember, single dad will get paid on the 5th, will get paid on the 19th. So on the first paycheck, that comes down, that touches down on the 5th. Okay? That paycheck touches down the checking account. So where does the money go? The one on the 19th, that one also touched down the checking account. Where does the money go? Okay. This is when, America, you have to pay attention to the due date, especially for bills, expenses that you need cash or cash equivalent for. Okay. So let's assume these two paychecks are equal. So 3081 divided by 2. So on the first paycheck, 15, 40, 50, touch down the checking account, and on the next paycheck, 15, 40, 50, we touch down the checking account. All right, let's figure out our numbers. Remember, USA needs to receive total 2,581, and PenFed needs to receive 500 bucks. Okay? The paycheck on the 5th, $1,540.50. And again, paycheck on the 5th will cover anything between the 5th all the way through the 18th. Okay? So again, let's take a look how due date again. 28, 28, 28, 28. That's after the 5th, after the 18th. Grocery don't have a due date. Fuel, dining out. Car payment, 26. That's after the 18th. USA, 28th. That's after the 18th. PenFed, 20th. That's again after the 18th. So in that case, America, USAA will receive the entire 15, 40, 50. Okay? Because we have no issue with due date. Okay? On the first paycheck, which cover the 5th and the 18th again, and none of our bills are coming up due between the 5th and the 18th. Everything is after the 18th. Okay? That is why America, as part of our prep work, okay, I always told you guys to change all the due date, to push all the due date towards the end of the month, because that will give a boost to whatever alternative account we're going to use. Okay? Because we always want income to come in first, okay, and expense to come in last. And for changing those due dates, for calling the banks or the lenders or the creditors and change those due dates, okay, it gave us an opportunity, America, for income to come in first, okay, for the paycheck to hit the account first, as opposed to paying off bills first, okay? So now, USCA will keep the entire 15, 40, 50, and PenFed will keep 0 on the first paycheck, okay? Now, on the next paycheck, which is the 19th, the second paycheck will take care of everything between the 19th towards the end of the month, okay? So, USA needs to receive total $2,581. But USA only received $1,540.50 on the first paycheck. Okay? So now USA needs to receive the remainder. So 2,581 minus 1,540.50. Okay? So USA now will get $1,040.50. And PenFed now will receive the remainder. Okay? So the total paycheck is 1,540.50 minus 1,040.50. So PenFed will get the remainder, which is 500. Okay? And again, they did not get anything on the first paycheck. Now they're gonna get everything on the next paycheck, because they needs to have total $500. Okay. All right. That is how the workflow gonna go. You gotta know per paycheck how you need to allocate these paychecks. Okay. Very important. We have first paycheck again, 5th to the 18th. So if we have any bills that you need a cash for, and the due date was between the 5th and the 18th, the 5th and the 18th, then you will have to reserve, okay, these amount into the account that offer greater liquidity. But that's not the case here, okay? Everything is due after the first paycheck, all right? All right, America, I'll give you about 5-10 seconds to take a look at what's on the board, and then we're going to continue with the exercise. All right, America. And again, last and final question, to pay off which debt now? Okay. USA, the old monthly payment charge was $240. The new monthly payment charge is $240. That hasn't changed. PenFed ELOC, the old monthly payment charge was $150. The new monthly payment charge is $150. That hasn't changed. Okay. All right. To pay down on off which debt? Electricity, $360 could go on a credit card. On the 28th, USA will take care of that because USA is a credit card. Water due on the 28th, $80. And again, USA will take care of that. USA will take care of that. Netflix, USA. T-Mobile, USA. On the due date, which is the 28th. Okay? Don't pay them early, America. Wait on the due date to pay. Property tax, USA. Insurances, USA. Groceries, USA. Fuel, gas, USA. Dining out, restaurant, USA. Okay. All these have due date. Groceries don't have a due date. I guess single dad could wait towards the end of the month to do his groceries. That way, which is more beneficial for the alternative account. Fuel, gas, I guess single dad could put fuel in the vehicle once a week, okay? And the fuel will go on a credit card, so it'll be approximately 4 times, so 240 divided by 4. So each week it's going to put fuel in the vehicle. Dining at a restaurant, I guess single dad could decide to go to the restaurant towards the end of the month, okay? In order to help that alternative account, in order to save more interest on that alternative account. Okay. The car payment, remember the servicer needed cash or check. Car payment is due on the 26th. Okay. So the USA credit card couldn't take care of the car payment. PenFed ELOC has to take care of the car payment. Okay. Remember we sent $500 on the 19th. Okay. Car payment is due on the 26th, 7 days later. Okay. So on the 19th, you send the payment, money touched down the checking account, and you send 500 of it to the PenFed ELOC, the remainder to USA. That 500 is gonna sit inside the PenFed ELOC. And on the 26th, that's when you're going to move the money from the PenFed ELOC back to the checking account for $500. Okay? And from the checking account, you send the payment to the servicer for $500. Okay? James, why then have the money in the PenFed ELOC, send it from the checking account to the PenFed ELOC, and then 7 days later, so 19 minus 26, 26 minus 19, is 7 days later, and 7 days later move it back to the checking account? Why do you have to do that? Why didn't you leave it in a checking account in the first place? America, remember how those alternative account works, okay? And from past lesson, I cover with you guys Ambroise Wash Technique, okay? Which is a technique whereby the same dollar amount that comes in the alternative account will be the same dollar amount that goes out of the alternative account. Okay? Why? Because we want to have movement. Okay? Just for having that movement, later on, that movement will save you on interest. Because remember, America, we're trying to save interest at every location that we could. Okay? So that is why you send the payment. Remember, all these things are being computed, America, are being calculated. Average daily. When you send the payment, you want to bring down that average. Okay? Even though a few days later, you have to send the money right back, but send the payment to that account. Okay? So you could reduce that average. That's how you reduce your interest cost. Okay? All right. So the car payment, USA, PenFed will take care of that. Okay? USA on the 28th, 240. USA will receive its own minimum payment, 240. And the PenFed on the 20th, 150. PenFed will receive its own minimum payment, 150. But James, you told us that PenFed ELOC will take care of the car payment and will also take care of the regular payment, 150. 500 plus 150 is 650. But on the example, you told us only 500 will go to the PenFed ELOC, not 650. And again, America, remember how this alternative account works. On the 20th, 20, when the PenFed ELOC is due, remember on the 19th, you send in 500 to the PenFed ELOC. That 500 was big enough to cover 150. So that payment will get satisfied on the 20th, 1 day later. Okay? So now you have $500 on the account. Because remember, you sent 500 to it. 500 will satisfy 150 because 500 is larger or bigger than 150. 150 bucks. Okay? So the minimum payment on the PenFed will get taken care of. Okay? But again, you sent 500. Okay? Later on, you're going to use that 500 now. Because you have 500 in the account. You're going to use that 500 to take care of the car payment on the 26th. And again, on the 26th, move it from the PenFed back to the checking account. And with the checking account, you send the payment to the car payment. Okay? So now, every account or every bill is accounted for. Okay? So we are done, okay, for that cycle. Okay? All right, America, I'll give you about 5-10 seconds to take a look at what's on the board, and then we're going to continue with the exercise. All right, America. James, what is the difference with someone that uses that snowball, that avalanche, or velocity banking? Okay. Remember, that snowball only uses cash flow. And for us, America, even as a normal user, you're going to do better than that snowball. Why? Because again, that snowball only taking advantage of cash flow. So what they'll do, they'll take 388 cash flow and send it right away to the lowest balance account. The lowest balance account is USAA. Okay. Same thing. The account for greater results for is still USAA, but we then rush in and start sending cash flow to accounts, okay? You need to first, America, rearrange the list first. So that is for us, we don't do cash flow, we don't send cash flow to account first. We do transfer first, okay? So that is why we transfer $4,625 from the PenFed to USAA. USAA got decreased. You went from 8,000 to 3,375, and PenFed got increased again from 20,000 to 24,625. Okay, So we do transfer first. We don't rush in like a crazy person start using cash flow. We're trying to reorganize the list first for maximum interest savings, America. Okay? So they're using cash flow only. And for us, even as a normal user, we're going to be doing one additional item. We're going to be doing transfer. Okay? So they're doing one thing. We're going to be doing two things. Transfer and cash flow. Obviously, you could see that a normal user will go past the finish line first because a normal user is taking advantage of more item than just transfer, than just cash flow, I'm sorry. We're using transfer. Okay. Same thing, that avalanche, this group only uses cash flow. So with that avalanche, they're gonna send cash flow to the higher APR account. The higher APR account again is USAA. So they have same results as that snowball here. The lowest balance is also the higher APR account. So both of them will attack USAA. But the difference between us and them, okay, they wanna send cash flow to this account right away. And us again, we're trying to reorganize the list first. Okay? Because again, the list is not ready. Okay? Look how much availability we have on a lower APR account, 5,000. Okay? We're trying to take advantage, and we did take advantage of that availability from a lower APR account. Okay? And again, folks, you do not want to get charged 24% on 8,000. You much prefer to get charged 24% only on 3,375 bucks. The high over interest, you don't get charged on a high balance, 8,000. That's why you're trying to reduce that balance from 8,000 to 3,375. Because again, you're going to get charged a high interest rate on that balance. Okay? That is how you save more on interest cost, okay? So every opportunity, America, that you have to transfer, go ahead and make a transfer. And remember, on our method, we have at least 7 different ways of executing balance transfer. We have what we call a normal balance transfer. Put it right here. We have what we call a mix and match. Put it right, mix and match balance transfer. Then we have plastic, Melio, similar entities. And we have the 2 superstar, Ambroise Charge Pay Technique Normal and Ambroise Charge Pay Technique Inducement. Okay? So 7 different ways, at least, that we execute balance transfer. Normal 1, mix and match 2, plastic 3, Melio 4, similar entities 5, Ambroise Charge Pay Technique Normal 6, Ambroise Charge Pay Technique Inducement 7. Okay? So, even if the second account was not an ELOC, let's assume the second account was a credit card, okay? And they were not offering any balance transfers. For us, remember, we are not handicapped or limited by what the big bank, big creditors could do for us. We could still execute our own balance transfers without the help of the big bank, the big creditors. So even though big bank, big creditors not offering those balance transfer, we'll still execute balance transfer. How? We will use funds that could go on a credit card. Okay? So that's that 1,803 by using one of the 2 superstar, either Ambroise Charge Pay Technique Normal or Ambroise Charge Pay Technique Inducement. In this case, it will be Ambroise Charge Pay Technique Normal. Okay? And in order to achieve the same thing, let's say 4625, it would have been 4625 divided by 1803. It would take us a little over 2 months to arrive at the same, at similar numbers, okay? If we did not have a PenFed ELOC, if we had two credit cards, like USA credit card and some other credit card, okay? We'll still do balance transfers. In that case, like I'm aforementioned, we'll be using Ambroise's Charge Pay Technique Normal. And I cover all that America extensively from our past lesson, okay? All right, so that was that snowball and that avalanche. Okay, how these two groups will not be able to compete because we're doing one additional item they are doing. We're doing transfer. They are not taking advantage of transfer. Okay, all right. And what about velocity banking, James? Okay, well, let's take a look. For velocity banking, you know, these folks, they only want to go 80% max. We're already at 80%. And then after that, they'll start taking advantage of, they'll start using the account that offer greater liquidity, which is the PenFed ELOC, to start paying off debt. So with them, to chunk, it would be the account that offer greater liquidity, so that'll be the PenFed, okay? Well, in this case, I don't know how much they'll be willing to chunk, because remember, we're already at 80%, okay? So the next thing they normally do is use the account that offer greater liquidity as the debt tool, okay? Or debt weapon. So in this case, you'll still be PenFed ELOC, okay? And finally, the account that keeps cash flow for them is the account that offers greater liquidity. So that'll still be PenFed ELOC. As you could see, just like I mentioned from prior lesson, they have PenFed ELOCs everywhere. To chunk, you know, if they were able to chunk, it would be PenFed ELOC, debt tool, PenFed ELOC, cash flow, PenFed ELOC. So they would have PenFed ELOC everywhere, okay? In this case, if they did not chunk, at least they'll have PenFed ELOC as a debt tool, PenFed ELOC to keep cash flow at least for 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, 1 year. Okay. For us, America, for transfer, we would have, we'll execute the transfer from the account that offer greater liquidity, so that'll be PenFed. Okay. For alternative account, remember we're using two alternative accounts here. We have USA and PenFed. And for cash flow, remember cash flow is better served to the account with the higher APR, so cash flow will go to USA. So for cash flow, we have USA. Okay. So let's take a look at our results. Let's take a look at their results. For transfer, they chunk, we transfer. So they have PenFed, we have PenFed. Okay. But in this particular example, we're already at 80%. I don't even know if they'll take advantage of chunking, because these folks, this group, Velocity Banking Group, they do not want to go above 80%. Okay. Oh, by the way, let's talk about this 80% by the way, real quick. On the board, folks, we have USA, which is a credit card. We have PenFed ELOC, which is a ELOC, home equity line of credit. You're not really hurting yourself, America, for going all the way up to 98.5%. You're not going to hurt the credit score for going as high as 98.5%. Because remember, you're trying to increase an account that is secured by a home, that's the PenFed ELOC, and you're trying to decrease a credit card. Okay? The way the credit score America, today is July 29, 2024. As of today, the way the credit score works, America, okay, it is more beneficial for you to pay down a credit card, okay, than to try to maintain a balance in a PenFed ELOC. Okay, that is the way that the credit score works. Okay, so if I have an opportunity to reduce my credit card balance from 8,000 to 3,375, okay, it is more beneficial to do that and increase the PenFed ELOC with regards to the credit score, okay, because of how the credit score is calculated, okay. Reducing your credit card will be more beneficial for you, America. So don't worry about increasing the PenFed ELOC to 98.5%. Okay? It's a good exchange. If I'm increasing my PenFed ELOC in order to decrease my USA credit card, okay, I will be in a better position, okay, for credit score purposes. Okay? So I'll take that any day of the week. Okay? So for those of you who are kind of concerned about raising up, okay, the balance on your PenFed ELOC, okay, just go ahead and do it. Okay, based on how the credit score is being calculated, you're better off lowering down that balance and increase the PenFed ELOC. So lowering down the balance in the credit card and increase the PenFed home equity line of credit. Okay. All right. So going back to debt snowball, velocity banking, I'm sorry. For transfer, we have PenFed. For chunking, if they even chunk, they would have PenFed. For alternative account, we have USA and PenFed. For debt tools, they have PenFed. You see? So here we're doing one additional item. Okay? So we have a movement on the USA. That's reduction of interest costs. We have been movement on our PenFed, because remember, just for having movement of income and movement of expenses, you're going to reduce or you're going to save on interest costs. Okay? We're saving at two places here, they're saving at one place. Okay? And chunk, they probably don't have anything because we're already at 80%. Okay? So we have 1 saving, 2, 3, 4. For them, they probably have max 3. So 1, 2, 3, or 2. So they either had 2 savings or 3 savings for them. Okay? And again, to chunk, we're already at 80%. Okay? So either 1, 2 for them or 1, 2, 3 if they are willing to go a little higher than 80%. Okay? So, and again, doing a transfer, we relocate in balance from higher APR to lower APR. That's a savings because the difference on the APR is our saving. 24 minus 9, the difference is 15%. That's our savings. Okay, so that's one saving. USA, we have in movement of income and movement of expense in the USA. That's another savings. PenFed, we have again movement of income and movement of expenses. That's another saving as opposed to if we did not do anything. And cash flow, we're sending cash flow to the USA. That's another savings. So 1, 2, 3, 4 savings for this particular example. Okay, 4 savings for an advanced user. So 4 savings versus 2 savings for them. 4 savings for us versus 3 savings for them if they're willing to go higher again than 80%. Okay? So as you could see, we're having more savings than they are. Okay? So not only we're having more savings than they are, talking about velocity banking, okay, but we're also doing things better than they are. Okay? They're using PenFed ELOCs for everything. Okay? PenFed ELOC was good to chunk if they decide to chunk. PenFed ELOC was not good as an alternative account, was not good as a debt tool. Okay? Because in essence, you're sending payment to a lower APR account when you have a higher APR account on the board. Remember, America, payment or excess payment are better served in higher APR account. We'll cover all that extensively from case study number 5. Okay, so they're using the wrong account. Velocity banking is using the wrong account as the debt tool or debt weapon. They have PenFed. We don't have PenFed. We have USAA for the as first in line or the account for greater results. Then we have PenFed as next in line or the account for greater liquidity. Okay? And they're using PenFed finally to keep cash flow. And again, remember, America, excess payments are better served in the account with higher APR. They have PenFed, we have USA for cash flow. Okay? As you could see, this is how we're going to surpass the results of debt snowball, debt avalanche, and velocity banking. Okay? With these two guys, debt snowball, debt avalanche, they don't go far enough in eliminating debt quickly. They're only using cash flow. Us, even as a normal user, we're taking advantage of transfer. So normal user, which is our worst options, will do better than these two guys. So if our worst options will do better than them, okay, you know they would not be able to compete with our advanced user. And for an advanced user, in addition to transferring cash flow, we're using alternative account. Okay. So these two guys, these two groups, that snowball, that avalanche, will never ever be able to compete with our method, Ambroise Method. Okay? Because we're doing more than they are. Okay? Velocity banking, they're doing 3 items, just like we're doing 3 items. But inside these items, we might be doing multiple transactions inside these items. So that is why they have either 2 or 3 savings, and we have 4 savings. 1, 2, 3, 4 again. And not only that, we're doing everything better than they are. Okay? These folks, they do not know how to properly use alternative accounts. Okay? This obsession, fixation that they have on PLOC, ELOC, BLOC. Remember, America, these accounts, all they offer is greater liquidity, not greater results in terms of reducing interest costs. For that reason, America, these accounts are poor performing alternative account. Poor performing alternative account. Okay? ELOC, poor performing alternative account. BLOC, that's a business line of credit, poor performing alternative account. PLOC, that's a personal line of credit, poor performing alternative account. Okay? First in ELOC, the old ones, those old ones that use a one-way sweep, poor performance alternative account. First in ELOC with two-way sweep, the newer one, poor performing alternative accounts. Okay? Compared to a credit card, USAA, that has a higher APR on the list. And again, folks, remember, payment are better served in higher APR account. So don't send payment or excess payment to 9% account when you have 24% account on the board. Okay? It's like going backwards. Okay. That is why this group, especially that snowball and velocity banking, their results are usually all over the place. All right, America. I'll give you about 5-10 seconds to take a look at what's on the board, and then we're going to continue with the exercise. All right, America. Again, my name is James Ambroise. I am the author, creator of Ambroise Method 1.0 and Ambroise Method 2.0. Ambroise Method is a revolutionary debt repayment method that offers greater results in terms of reducing interest costs compared to debt snowball, debt avalanche, velocity banking. Thank you, Jesus. Until next time, America. Good morning.